Shalom. We are continuing with Psalm 19, and for the purpose of making my comments after I read the psalm a little more understandable, I'm going to divide the psalm into two parts, part A and part B. Part A. For the leader, a psalm of David. The heavens declare the glory of God, the sky proclaims his handiwork. Day to day makes utterance, night to night speaks out. There is no utterance, there are no words, whose sound goes unheard. Their voice carries throughout the earth, their words to the end of the world. He placed in them a tent for the sun, who is like a groom coming forth from the chamber, like a hero eager to run his course. His rising place is at one end of heaven, and his circuit reaches the other. Nothing escapes his heat. Part B. The teaching of the Lord is perfect, renewing life. The decrees of the Lord are enduring, making the simple wise. The precepts of the Lord are just, rejoicing the heart. The instruction of the Lord is lucid, making the eyes light up. The fear of the Lord is pure, abiding forever. The judgments of the Lord are true, righteous altogether, more desirable than gold and much fine gold, sweeter than honey, than drippings of the comb. Your servant pays them heed. In obeying them, there is much reward. Who can be aware of errors? Clear me of unperceived guilt, and from willful sins keep your servant. Let them not dominate me. Then shall I be blameless and clear of grave offense. May the words of my mouth and the prayer of my heart be acceptable to you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. When I was looking at this psalm, I immediately wondered about the connection between part A and part B. They seem to be disjointed and disconnected. But when you think about it a little bit more deeply, you can actually see a profound connection between these two parts. The focus in part A is the heavens, the sky, all of which declare the glory of God, proclaim God's handiwork. Day to day makes utterance, night to night speaks out. It's as if the natural forces, the world and the universe, and the celestial bodies are somehow personified, taking on the ability to express human characteristics like speech or like glorifying God, extolling God. Speech and the ability to praise and glorify God are human qualities, but the psalmist actually attributes them to the heavens, the daytime, the nighttime, the sun, and so forth. So that's in the first part, part A. But then in part B, the psalmist abruptly switches the focus to humankind. Talks about the teaching of the Lord is perfect, renewing life. Well, who is it that receives the teachings of the Lord? That is human beings. Certainly, the teachings of the Lord per se, both the moral, the ethical, and the ritual teachings, teachings of virtue, of righteousness and goodness, are all teachings that apply to human beings, but not to inanimate objects. So the psalmist moves from his focus on the natural world and the universe to humankind as objects and recipients of God's Torah and God's teachings. We believe that God's precepts are just. They allow our heart to rejoice. Our eyes light up upon studying them. The fear or awe of the Lord is pure. We understand that God's judgments are true. We listen to them, pay them heed, and try our best to obey them, knowing that there are ample rewards for doing so. We ask God to clear me from unperceived guilt, asking God to keep us far from willful sins. Again, a contrast here between intentional sins and unintentional sins, both of which we want to be kept from, so that we can be as blameless and righteous as possible in our lives. Upon reflecting over this psalm, I understand that the psalmist may feel that it is important to remind himself and the rest of the human world that we can very easily veer off the path, and we can very easily, and we can be easily inclined to make our own rules, to follow our own system of laws, to question whether the laws that we receive from God and from the Torah are truly applicable to our lives. Our own human will can take us in an opposite direction from that. The inanimate objects, the sun, the moon, the heavens, the sky, do not have the human capability of a mind and a conscience that can discern between right and wrong and good and evil. They, in a sense, blindly adulate and adore God. But we have a choice. We can either follow God's teachings or we can reject them. We can either follow the dictates of our own ego and our own physical needs alone, or we can rise above all of that and connect with the deep and inner profound meaning of God's teachings and God's profound wisdom, which is infinitely greater than our own. The psalm ends with a very well-known verse, May the words of my mouth and the prayer of my heart. Often when we rabbis or other clergy people quote this, it is sometimes translated as, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. To me, what this is saying is that I aspire to a level of integration and a deep and smooth flow of energy between the murmurings and prayers and meditations of my innermost heart and whatever comes out on my lips. It is easy to pray in a rote, kind of automatic way, and it is also easy to speak falsehoods and to say things that we really don't mean deep down. But this is an expression of a true connection, a true integration of heart and mind and mouth and lips, of the innermost spirit and innermost thoughts with the words that cross our lips. Our prayer is that we can truly allow our minds and our mouths to express what our hearts dictate and what our hearts feel deep within. Those feelings, those spiritual stirrings of the heart are what ultimately can connect us to the highest parts of our own human and spiritual selves and connect us to the Spirit of God that moves within us each and every day, and God willing, each and every moment of our lives. So may we continue to praise and extol God out of a clear choice that indeed is the right and true path for us. Thank you.